there's trouble.
We call the meeting to order. Whoops, we're not on yet. You didn't see me knock?
It's 1:29.
Do we have a quorum?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, my Chris isn't here. 6, we just need 6.
6 volunteers, excluding the paid.
Louise is coming.
And Louise is here someplace.
But you have 6.
We have 6, so we're good to go. But can you see me?
He hasn't even turned it on yet.
No, I know.
Hello?
Hey, Ma.
Well, we worked out this elaborate
tell you a
plan
story
where
about
I was gonna knock.
You are on, it's monitors.
Oh.
I was gonna tell you a nice story about Mark's family.
All right.
There we go.
I'm calling the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and we expect at least one more, or possibly 2. I understand, I thought Chris was coming also, but we're good to go. So, and I think you know Tina, so we don't need any yes, Barry,
You might want to consider changing the heading.
Right, the date.
This is the 17th.
correct.
It was properly posted as the 17th.
And I was getting to that under announcements.
I accidentally printed the wrong agenda.
So we have no guests other than Tina, who Bob knows. Welcome, we always welcome you, Tina. And a reminder, this is an open meeting that abides by the open meeting laws. And I have a couple of announcements. But before I get into them, does anybody else have an announcement?
It's a wonderful day.
It is, and we should celebrate that, actually, so. I have actually 3 announcements, real quick. One is, there was a rumor, I received this information from the director of Loaves and Fishes, and there was a rumor going around the town of Littleton, because they were getting calls, that Loaves and Fishes was closing. And I just wanted to make sure that people know Loaves and Fishes is not closing.
We're thinking
So-
of the grocery store.
Maybe. I don't know what prompted the whole issue, but anyway, Loaves and Fishes is not closing. And I also wanted to make an announcement about, at the last meeting, we talked about the fact that donations could be made to the Transportation Fund in memory of Mary Kay if people so chose to do that. And I wanted to let you know that a total of $150 was donated through the COA to the Transportation Fund
In memory.
in memory of Mary
From the
Kay.
board.
And the third announcement is that I'd like to thank Bob Stetson, who took his snowmobile recently to a home of some seniors, quite elderly, and snowmobiled them out. So, I mean, snow blow them, sorry, the wrong word. I must have snowmobiling.
Riding around on the snowmobile.
I must have
That's a visual,
snowmobiling.
that's
yeah.
a-
Did you have the snow blower on the back of the snowmobile?
But thank you, Bob, that was really very nice of you to
Bob's
do.
ignoring you.
I know he is. He probably upset because I'm thanking him publicly, but it really should be acknowledged.
Here's a Brother Mason, what else could I do?
Oh, it was great.
And Louise.
Welcome, Louise. Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on. No other announcements, I take it. Then, Chris, you came in a little late. Do you have an announcement by any chance?
Thank you. Only that I apologize for being late.
Oh, well, thank you.
I
That's
do
okay. Well, that's okay. We are glad you're here. And Louise, do you have an announcement before I move on? Okay. All right. So let's move on to the minutes of January 12th. And you have a copy in your packets if you, I'm sure you all have read them. And probably if you had a question, you would bring it up, hopefully, bring it up so we can address it here before we approve the minutes. Yes, Patty.
I just have one comment on page 2. The new business 4B2. I would, under making town meeting, Marge appointed Chris and Patty. I don't know about Chris, but I would rather say that I volunteered. I didn't think that you appointed me. I think I volunteered.
You did volunteer. You're correct, you did. Yep.
I think as a
I-
volunteer board,
You
you
did.
don't usually appoint, we volunteer.
So, could you just, can we amend the
I think it
minutes?
was, you
to
volunteered for the subcommittee and you
Chris and
said-
Patty volunteered to be
Well, you had to
subcommittee.
be appointed, and yes, you volunteered, and so she appointed you.
Well,
I don't know that,
I think we
actually,
volunteered and Marge accepted our
I
volunteer.
did. And I don't know that it has to be an official subcommittee of the Council on Aging.
It is.
Excuse me?
We're talking about the
The,
needs assessment?
no,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we're talking about making town meeting more accessible for seniors.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And we get into a discussion about, what's the name of the group that's,
Voter participation
Right.
committee.
there's a voter participation committee in town, that came up, I think, at our last meeting. And it seems as though we don't need a formal subcommittee, I don't think, to be able to have board members participating, maybe with that voter participation committee, to try to, accomplish some things. That's where I'm at with that, I don't know. But we can make it an official subcommittee.
I mean, I think it's
But you did
fine that we're a
volunteer to work on it.
subcommittee to do something on this board, but
Right.
we volunteered to work with ideas coming to us and to write a report. It wasn't that you appointed us to do that.
Correct, you did volunteer.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, and that is the issue, I think, as far as the minutes go.
Madam Chair, anytime you're on the committee or you're on the board, you volunteer, you don't direct someone to do something, they normally volunteer for it, so if
That's all
we're
I'm
all
saying.
gonna volunteer for it, then that becomes, if it's a committee, then you appoint those people to serve on that committee. So indirectly, you may volunteer, but as far as the official goes for this board, you are appointing those people to serve on that committee.
Okay,
That's the way that normally happens with a board or a committee.
okay, so for the.
If it's indirect, has nothing to do with the board, then you get a group of people volunteer to do this or whatever the case is, then that's fine. But if it's something for the board that you're doing, then you get the volunteers instead of directing, and say, you, okay, you're gonna be
Right.
on this committee, you know?
So for the sake of the minutes, can we amend them? Is this, I think, what we want? I just got a cramp in my finger, sorry. Chris and Patty volunteered to work on this issue. Just plain volunteered to work on this issue. Is that all right with everybody to amend the minutes to state that? All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Bob, did you get that?
Not yet.
Okay.
A question, Madam Chair. They volunteered to work on this, so when they finish up what they're gonna come up with, what they gonna do with it then?
They'll bring it back to us.
Presented today.
You can today.
Okay, what was the actual issue?
The issue was under new business, item B.
What was,
The issue was that, Chris, I did not appoint.
no, what committee?
This is making town meeting more accessible for
Thank you.
seniors.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Is this in the packet? I haven't gotten.
It's
to
in
it
the
yet.
minutes. The
It's in
minutes
the
are in your
minutes,
packet,
it's in new business B.
Okay.
on the back side of the minutes.
On the front, page one, the bottom.
The last sentence in the paragraph, Bob. You got that? Just modify it. to state Chris and Patty volunteered to work on this.
All right, now where is it? It's under,
The last, it's under new business B, the very last sentence in the paragraph.
okay, now it says Chris and Patty volunteered to work on the issue of making town meeting more accessible.
That's fine.
The seniors.
Okay. Are we ready to accept the minutes otherwise? No. Anyone else have any concerns? If not, may I have a vote to accept the minutes?
Motion.
All those in favor? Aye. Oh, thank you. Anybody opposed? No. Thank you. Okay.
Moved and seconded.
Oh, it wasn't moved and moved and seconded. Thank you, Pam. Do I have a second on the motion? I second. Thank you.
Now you gotta vote.
All right. Thank you, George. We'll vote. I just wanted to be sure Bob had who made the motion and then the second. Are we ready to vote now?
You really want me to put down every time who,
You asked sometimes, and I'm not
didn't
sure.
ask.
Okay, no, you didn't ask. I was just making sure.
do you want it
Okay.
or not?
May we have a vote? All those in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? His question?
I think he asked if you.
If you, you don't have to put that in the minutes all the time, no. Is that your
Okay,
question?
I just usually put moved, seconded, and passed. I don't,
That's
But
fine.
procedurally, it does need to be moved and seconded.
That's correct.
We can't skip that part.
I skipped that part
but I don't put down names every time.
every time, okay. Have we legally accepted the minutes now, I think? Sorry about that. Okay. Oh, maybe, huh? And the Friends are on the docket next. We moved you up to the beginning.
Yes, thank you very much. I almost thought I was too late. I was going to apologize.
Nope, just in time.
Well, fine, I'm not going to apologize then. But, no, I just want to mention that we had a fabulous Valentine's party for the seniors. We had a wonderful entertainer. Everybody wants him back. And now we're planning our St. Patrick's Day party for the 18th of March. And I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be another great event. And nothing for April and June will be, I think, a fashion show. And other than that, Nancy Levine handed in a report for the town, to Pamela for the town report. And I think the what?
Volunteer.
Oh, that's right, forgot about that. I don't want to forget the volunteer lunch, thank you. The volunteer luncheon will be in May, and that's for, the volunteers for the council on aging. So, yes, that's about it for now.
Okay, I didn't get the second one. Great Valentine's party, we have fashion show and a volunteer luncheon. What was the other one that you said?
St. Patrick's Day party in March. In May, we'll have the volunteer luncheon, and June, we'll have a fashion show.
George, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to ask Barbara a question here. That is, I'm reading here with the St. Patrick lunch. You said no Neshoba tax is cooking and serving at $8 per person. Then it says the cost down here is $5.
Because the Friends are paying the rest.
Oh, the $3?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay, all right.
people coming pay $5.
Okay.
Friends are paying for the extra amount that Neshoba will be charging. And they will be making corned beef and cabbage, and they'll be serving it. And and also in April, I didn't mention the fact that there'll be another Senior Follies.
I was going to
So-
bring that up because that's a great event.
Yeah.
We need to get that out there so people can attend. It was certainly
Yeah.
was wonderful
We're
last
looking
year.
forward to that.
So you said 75 to 100, so do we have a sign up for this? Is that?
St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, it's downstairs in the diner.
oh, okay.
It's already being used, so if anyone wants to come, I suggest they get signed up pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that, they've had Neshoba Tech cater other things, and they've been wonderful events, so.
Yeah, yeah, they do a great job.
Yep.
People did want to see them come back too, so.
So
We're
we-
trying to do that when they're really appreciated. We want whoever to come back. And this entertainer we had for Valentine's Day said he definitely wants to come back.
And you are right, it was an excellent, excellent program.
Mm-hmm. And he gave me names of other entertainers that he thought,
Wonderful.
yeah.
George?
So in May, you don't have to pay?
Right, it's a volunteer, it's for the volunteers.
Okay, all right.
And I have to add that it's for the volunteers for the Council on Aging, because it's not for every other organization. It's what we do for our volunteers. So, because we have had comments before from people saying, but you didn't include, another group, and
Like
we
the
had to
library.
tell them that we're doing one for our volunteers, the Council on Aging.
How did the people take on the coverall prize?
I'm sorry,
Bingo.
the Friends will pay for you asking about the price for the volunteer?
No, I'm talking about
Friday
the
bingos.
bingo. Bingo on Friday on the
Oh, oh,
coverall. How did the people take that?
It went well, because,
Well, they was
Took care of
contributing
that.
this dollar for the prize, and then you said
yeah. And
they
Tony
could
found
contribute
out
to buy the
that,
candy. So I was just wondering, how did people
no,
react
Tony
to it?
found out that, I guess they can go under $25 or something like that, and it's
I can
seniors.
speak to
and-
it if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So Tony Jazinski did some research and I did some research, and we found that if they fully disperse all the funds the day of the event, that they are allowed to do that. So we worked out a deal with them that they are going to continue to collect their money. They'll use that for their prize. We set a limit of $10 a week that I'm going to contribute from our rec funds to pay for prizes, and then the Friends are going to pick up additional cost so that they can continue to have candy for prizes.
So I think they were pleased about that.
I think they were pleased. I think it ended up with everyone being happy about it. There was a lot of confusion. People didn't understand where things were coming from and where money was going. And I think we got it all straight.
Yeah, seems like.
Yeah, because that candy is a
Before you
very
go on,
important
I need to
factor.
get- Go
The
ahead.
candy is a very important factor for them.
Yeah,
They love that candy.
yeah. Even though maybe sugar isn't
Yeah,
the best.
I know, I was thinking that, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Bob?
Okay, are we done with the report? Because I want to just ask a past question. Okay.
Okay.
What was the third thing? Loaves and Fishes is not closing. I plowed and subbed somebody, and what was the,
Donations to the Transportation Fund
thank you.
in memory of Mary Kay
Casey.
totaled $150.
Now, if you'd all slow down a bit.
Is that all you needed?
In
Okay.
regard to the volunteer luncheon, perhaps we should brand it COA Volunteer Luncheon?
Sure.
And all the posters and things to try to get that message across that we're not talking about the library, we're not talking about the school system, they can do their own event. And I think it's important for people to be clear that this is for the volunteers. Senior tax workers are not volunteers. They're being compensated for the work that they do at $9 an hour. Some of them do volunteer, in which case they would be certainly invited to the luncheon. But anyone who's a senior tax worker and at the end of their 65 hours disappears, that's not a volunteer position, that's a paid position. And they would not normally be invited to this event. This is to recognize volunteer time.
Okay.
So we'll start calling it the COA
COA
Volunteer
Volunteer
Luncheon.
Luncheon.
Yeah.
We will. We usually title them the Friends and the Council on Aging.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's appropriate.
May I make a little note too, just, I'm not gonna put this in the minutes, but the notice came out for the tax volunteers, that, for the tax program people, that they're OBRA's, their year-end statement, and if everybody didn't notice it, they're taking I think it's $1.17 a month out of each person who is getting their OBRA, and that reduces the OBRA, which is only probably $20 or $30 in total. And by the end of a year, it can pretty much decimate the whole thing. So that what we've done is volunteered our OBRA cost to our OBRA expenses to the state employment, OBRA insurance people. And I'm really furious about that, but there's nothing we can do about it. But what people can do is if they're over 70 and a half, they can send in a thing in August, after the thing is sent in, and get their money back before all of those deductions are taken from it. And it might be a good idea to do that. I'm just letting people know that this is, it happens every year. It really irritates me, and it irritates me more because I forgot to do it in August and I did it in December. And they got 6 months of $1.17 out of me. You shouldn't be taking it in the first place, but
Well, they subtract for OBRA in lieu of Social Security taxes. Instead of taking out for Social
I
Security,
fully
they take out
understand
for
that.
OBRA.
But they also end up, when they do it, taking the money and then giving it to the state fund, because over the course of a year, the state removes $1.17 out of $20, and if you multiply 12 times $1.17, it comes to about $20. And so basically what we're doing is we're supporting the state employment system, not ourselves nor anybody else.
Just a little background, I don't know what ever happened to it, but Representative Songas was working on that because there was another town that, this is the feds doing, it's not the state doing it, it's the feds that's doing it. This law is the feds' law. And they said that the municipalities and the state employees, in lieu of Social Security, they had to have this program. So it's mandated from the feds. And she was supposed to have been trying to write a law where that was going to exempt the citizens in town from that, especially the people that was already retired and that was drawing Social Security and working as a volunteer. So I don't know whatever happened to it.
Okay, it might be interesting to find out.
Do you have any contacts in their office that you could ask?
Yeah. Probably can write it and ask what happened to it.
I'd really be curious to know if that went anywhere, if it got stomped, or if it's still in process.
Because I sent a letter on that also and told that we need to stop taking money from the seniors, especially where they're already on Social Security. So they'll need to be putting funds into, which will get ate up because they take that money every month, like Bob is saying here, and that's money that goes into the retirement system for administration costs.
Okay. Before we move on to old business, Barry pointed out something in the beginning of the meeting, and then I meant to mention it under announcements, and I promptly forgot. But I'd like to mention it now before we move on. And that is the date on your agenda that you have in front of you needs to be changed. We forgot to change it to the 17th. It says the 9th. But this is the accurate agenda, the one that was posted.
It was posted as the 17th.
Right.
I printed out the wrong one in your packets.
We apologize for that, but just so you know that this is the correct agenda. Okay. Under old business, the first item is access to town meeting for seniors. So, and Patty and Chris have been looking into this a little bit, as I understand.
Well, yeah, Patty, do you want to?
Well, I can start.
Let me ask a quick question. Does everybody have the memo that Patty and I put together? Was this distributed?
That's my mistake. I am so sorry.
Okay,
I am so sorry. Thank you, Chris.
sure.
Well, I'll talk while Pam is copying them. Chris and I emailed back and forth to each other on different ideas we got from the board, which really
Thank you,
weren't too
Tina.
many. And we emailed back and forth the different comments, and then we commented to each other, and then we Chris was very nice in putting it together, and then I would comment and send it back and read, and then he'd comment again. So we finally put a packet together. And in the meantime, I went down to Diane to get sworn in. I didn't know you had to get sworn in every time you get on a little committee to do something, so I went down to get sworn in and got barraged with a bunch of questions, so I said, oh, okay. So then I came home and emailed Chris again and started all over again. So we finally have a final draft to present to the board today. And the basic summary, which I'll read to you in the
Patty,
objective.
can you share what Diane's questions were?
I do.
Can you share what Diane's questions?
Yes, I can.
I just was curious as to what she had to say.
Diane's first question is, why are we doing this? When there is a voter participation committee in town that has a number of members on it doing this? And why don't we have a COA member or two on the board? So in emailing back and forth to Chris, and you'll find when you get the document that Chris so nicely typed, we have put on here some of the questions, the feedback and guidance shared by the town clerk. Why are we, the COA, doing this as a subcommittee when there is already another in town, which I just talked about?
Are there
There are two
openings
there.
on that committee?
Pardon me?
Are there openings on that voter participation
Yes, they're
committee?
too short on that committee.
Oh,
Well, we heard from one of the committee members, though, who was in attendance at the last meeting. It's a committee, apparently, at this point in time, on paper only. They're not, or haven't met for
They
quite some
don't seem to
time.
be too active.
Yeah, that's a
is
better
what
way to
I'm
say it.
getting.
So there's no,
So we talked about, should we discuss this and determine the following? One, does our committee actually have the same objective and goals as that committee? I don't know much about that committee. Two, is this issue being addressed in the needs assessment survey that's going to be done? I don't know because I haven't seen that. Three, is this a duplication of work with the voter participation committee? That I don't know. And should we consider having membership on that committee from the COA? And if our objectives and goals can be identified as totally different from that committee, and we definitely document that, then we need to name our committee and be sworn in and proceed. So I found out a very lot just going in to get sworn in.
I guess you did.
And one more thing before you ask. They did say that you had gone to that committee, so I don't know whether you can share anything about it.
gee, it was like a year and a half ago, they invited me, and I can't even remember what the topic was. They were meeting at that point. I'd have to look back through the minutes, but it certainly had nothing to do with this board. It was a peripheral question.
I even asked who was on the committee because I wanted to know.
yeah. The members are listed on the, that subcommittee has a page on the town website. But, it just so happened, this came up with, from community input, and that was Henry Crystal, and he was on that committee. I
Right.
think is still technically on the committee, but the committee doesn't meet. But even if it were still meeting, and I suppose it could become active again as, by a matter of choice by those members. I think there's a good question as to whether or not the objectives are exactly the same, because it doesn't seem to me that that's the case. That's taking a broader view of voter participation. Voter participation is a bigger subject than one that's more about logistics and safety and the comfort of our seniors and their ability to attend town meeting, which happens twice.
I agree with Chris on that.
Yeah.
The little bit I looked up about it. I think we should, my perspective, should proceed from this angle for COA. And I think when you read our report, I think you'll see that ours is really dealing just with the seniors, and it wouldn't hurt, from our perspective, to go to Keith and bring our concerns to him never mind the voter participation committee.
Right.
Because Chris is right, that's a town-wide thing. And we're COA, and we're dealing with senior citizens, and that's our priority. So if we did what we are proposing here, and we can name it, that's not a big issue,
Sure.
and we take it to Keith, we might get them off doing something, but at least we are rolling with what we feel is important
Right.
from our perspective. So now you all have it, and Chris,
Yeah.
do you want to start by
Sure.
going through what we have?
Madam Chair, I want to make a comment here. This is,
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair. I
I'm
just
sorry,
wanna make
George,
a
I was
comment.
looking at the
No, I just wanted-
discussion handout
I
here.
just want to get the acknowledgement to do so. This is why there was a question came up about the volunteer thing. I remember that it was directed that you have to go to Diane and get sworn in as a committee. So this was what I was a little puzzled about, the volunteer versus the committee, because this is what happened, which means that you got to post, if you've met, you got to post this agenda and so forth and so on. So she swears them in as a subcommittee to the COA for this, and it comes back, and it was that they were just volunteering. So I think we sort of kind of got this thing a little cross here with what really was taking place. If we was asking them to do that, then it was a subcommittee, and if it wasn't, they didn't need to go down to Diane and get sworn in, because that was the instruction that was given to them. So if we have a town committee that's already there, perhaps, instead of going with further information here, perhaps we ought to find out who's the head of this committee and maybe get a copy of this here to them, and maybe they can meet and see, if these goals are the same, or are these included in what they're looking at, when they're going to meet, where we could present this to them as to our concerns or whatever, because we're sort of kind of, heading in a direction with not having the knowns before us.
George, it's an important perspective. I think maybe we should just table that for a moment and just walk through this, because we'll get a feel for the scope of these ideas. These ideas are largely ones which we could collaborate with some others very quickly. We could adopt. I don't think any of them bear any cost. They don't involve the elections, and so we're not getting into election law. We're really, this is about, it's more about transportation and logistics for town meeting, those 2 times a year, and helping our seniors A, get there, and B, be comfortable and safe while they're there. And if the voter participation committee were meeting, and again it isn't, and there's, I'm sure, a reason why that is. Some folks resigned, others kind of, I'm told, lost interest after, maybe not lost interest, but, some of them are working on other boards, they're very busy people. And the objective of that committee was, quite broad. I mean, that's a big subject.
Well, I understand
We
that.
just want to figure out, is there a way to make it, if we walk through these ideas, you'll get a feel for, it's much more narrow than what they were attempting. And if we work as a subcommittee and just among us and enlist folks like the Friends and others in town just on some of these just practical ideas, we might be able to just get there a little bit faster than making it heavier than it needs to be.
I would also suggest it may not even be a subcommittee. It's
Sure.
probably just working as a COA to help seniors get to the town meeting and be participatory in the meeting.
That's a great idea.
It doesn't even have to be a committee.
Sure.
We're just working to get seniors to the meeting, to be participatory in the town meeting, and get them home safely. That, we don't need a committee to do that.
No, and if-
But you can't do it from the perspective of this board, though. If you do it from the perspective of this board, then you have a committee, and you have to post it and make the announcement when you're gonna have people to come in to participate in it, what have you. If you're gonna do it from this board. If
Okay.
you're gonna do it on your individual own and not be a part of this board and come back and say, hey, I got an idea here, and I'd like to present it, that's a horse of another color. But if you're gonna do it from this board concept, then you're gonna have a committee, so you're gonna have to make it available where people can participate.
And, excuse me, but George is correct in that if it is an official subcommittee of the board, you have to abide by the open meeting laws, and you have to post your meetings. Subcommittees have to post the meetings, like the needs assessment meetings,
Yeah.
Pam always posts them. The membership subcommittee, Pam always posts the meetings, so they are open meetings and people can attend. That's correct. So that was why I was, at the point, saying people volunteered to work on this issue, and I didn't realize that people had gone in to be sworn in and everything else myself, so. But can we hear the information in the interest of time that you prepared, so that we do have that information, and then maybe we can make a decision as to which direction we want to go in. So I would welcome you to go over it, Chris.
Patty, you want me to start with the reading of it? Okay. So, the board recalls at the last meeting, it seems like eons ago and
Right.
a few hundred feet of snow ago, we started this conversation based on public input. And it was good input, and I'm glad we received it. And it was essentially, hey, I tried to go to town meeting in November, drove there, couldn't find a parking spot, and left. And that led to an appropriate conversation around, are there enough handicap spaces? Let's review that. And we had a conversation amongst us where we started to table some ideas and thought, let's take this offline and just, maybe capture some of the ideas which have been said, maybe some others, put them together in a document, come back to the board and have a conversation about, so where do we go from here?
Right.
And so what this document attempts to do is A, memorialize that conversation, and B, start to capture and reflect on some of those ideas. And they're listed in no particular order, so we'll just kind of, why don't we go through them and then come back and talk about them. If we read all of them, then I think the members will be able to decide which to apply time to while we're together today. So I'll go very quickly. Encourage the town administrator and board of selectmen to order the articles of town meeting to the extent possible in a manner which first favors the comfort and safety of our seniors. And also, it's worth stating the objective before we even get into the list. Very simply, increase the number of seniors who attend and participate in town meeting. That's catchy.
It's
Somebody's cell phone.
somebody's cell phone.
It will stop.
Not mine.
I think it
So-
might be Gene Johnson.
No worries. Increase the number of seniors who attend and participate in town meeting, and increase comfort and safety for seniors attending annual town meeting and special town meeting, which in this document we just refer to as town meeting. So, simple objectives. There was one idea. Those matters, articles which are more likely to be of importance and interest to our seniors, let's get them earlier in the evening. And we can comment on these ideas, the prioritization of these ideas, the quality of these ideas, kind of as we go. The second, review the number of handicap spaces. Do we have enough spaces, and are they close enough to the entrance? Also consider roping off a section of the parking lot closer to the building so that seniors could park closer to the building and not have to walk as long a distance.
How do you shut it off?
Dean, how many phones do you
You
have?
don't know how to shut it off?
There. Hooray.
All right. And so the roping off a section of parking closer to the building for seniors would help those who don't have the handicap placards park closer to the building.
Sorry.
The third idea that Patty and I captured are create a special reserved section of floor seating. And again, some of these ideas came from the group conversation when we last met. So a special reserved section of floor seating at town meeting to ensure that seniors can avoid the bleachers, first and foremost, and additionally be able to sit together and with their peers and have seating closer to the entrance and exit in restrooms. And by doing that, in addition to the safety and convenience factor, we think we can maybe have maybe somebody with a roving microphone come to the seniors who wish to make a comment or ask a question, rather than the senior have to get up and potentially walk and wait, and sometimes a fairly long line at that center microphone. And so by concentrating our seniors in one area, we can direct better attention in certain services in that way, and through volunteer work. So again, probably haven't discussed anything of cost factor yet. The next idea, increase awareness around the availability of the van service. Also consider using the senior van to pick seniors up at the senior center where they could leave their cars and then drive them to the middle school. Next, increase the practice of carpools, an opportunity for seniors to ride with their neighbors and other citizens planning to attend town meeting. Also, if the senior van were to be used for carpooling, perhaps St. Anne's would grant permission for seniors to park in their lot, and the senior van could drive the seniors from there to the middle school. Another idea, move, and hopefully we'll just add more to this list and then prioritize accordingly, move town meeting to Saturday to avoid evening hours. Another idea, consider opportunities for process or structure innovation. For example, as in Wayland and other communities, start using electronic voting handsets. And that could help enable anonymous voting at town meeting, which the idea is it reduces some of the intimidation that many of us feel in standing up, especially in some of those contentious issues, and feeling more comfortable weighing in. And proponents of that, and the folks in Wayland in particular, point to a more efficient town meeting when that occurs.
I can see that happening.
You know, it just goes much faster. And of course, if we can end these things at an earlier hour, that too in and of itself is a benefit to our seniors, in addition to the kind of more social issues around the avoiding the intimidation or managing that. And then other ideas. So we think we've captured really just what kind of came from our initial conversation. We then reflect on the feedback that Patty had received from our town clerk and questions as to whether or not we should be doing this. And we list a few suggested activities. One is actively solicit community input into the conversation with the goal of ultimately creating a good solid list, and that's prioritized accordingly, and that our seniors feel is the right list. And engage town employees, starting with the town administrator. Would love to get Keith Bergman's thoughts and opinion on the subject and where to go forward. Continue the conversation with the town clerk, the town moderator, town meeting moderator perhaps, and other stakeholders, certainly the Friends. Would love their input on the subject, and then regroup. So, continue to get the ideas together, broaden who we're talking to about it, get some support, figure out how we can enact those which we decide are the priorities, and just do it. That's the idea.
Yes, George?
Just want to thank the two of you for putting this together, because this took a lot of time and coordination in putting this together. I guess the only thing that I would say at this point would be that perhaps it would have been good that if they could have met with Keith and sort of kind of ran through your discussion with him as to what we was doing and got some feedback from him on what his thoughts were with regards to the big picture of what the town is doing versus what we are trying to do specific for the seniors that we see that affecting them in getting out there to vote, and why they're probably not coming out to vote is because there are many things, as you discussed here, as to infringe upon them not really getting out there participating in it. Because seniors, make no mistake about it, they vote. Normally if something hot, I can tell you, they come out and they vote. So I think this is a good foundation here, and it would be nice to know what Mr. Berkman thoughts were along this here, and if this committee is inactive, if it's a defunct, maybe they need to look at trying to get another committee up.
And in fairness to that committee, while I'm sure they would share our concern for our seniors, and the mission and purpose of that committee, though, isn't just to focus on our seniors, whereas ours is.
Yeah.
And so, there'd be a lot of discussion points And I can't imagine how wide, a list that would have been. I wasn't on that committee.
Okay.
Whereas ours can be, but we'd like to get, maybe Pamela, maybe we can invite Keith to join us for our next meeting and we can chat about it.
I think first of all, too, we need to think about, we have several issues here. I mean, we obviously have an interest in this, I think. And I think I'm hearing from many people that, or from everybody, that the issues around seniors is the paramount consideration. So then, today, maybe we should decide, okay, how are we going to proceed? Because I don't recall appointing a subcommittee myself at the last meeting even, but, I remember Patty did volunteer and said she would. Chris, you were interested in it anyway. And so the two of you kind of came together to get information to bring back to us. So if I'm not mistaken, just a second, George, we've gotten great information back. And let me echo George's thanks, because it's great information and you did a nice job. And so now, what is the next step? We need to figure that out, I think. Pam might have some good ideas for us, as far as the direction that we can go. The town committee, the voter participation committee, is a bigger, broader group, and it might take longer for things, and there are some things maybe that could be done just by advocacy of the Council on Aging. So there are pieces, perhaps, that we could focus on that would be realistic for us. Something that costs money, like electronic working devices, might take longer to work, and that's a bigger project, certainly, than maybe other things. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think it's appropriate to kind of carve that one out.
Yeah.
Because almost everything else, if not everything else on the list, are things which we could accomplish very
Without
quickly
setting
with very
off,
little money.
Roping off a
Yeah.
section in the auditorium is easy. Roping off non-handicap parking places is easy.
Right, and I think that's
They
right.
are so simple to do.
And I don't think that,
I cannot imagine that not being welcomed as a suggestion and implemented, and being written up and saying, oh, look what Littleton did for its seniors at the last town meeting.
and we can, I don't know that we need a town meeting for that even. So there are many questions,
Yeah.
around these issues that we need to get answers for. And Keith could be helpful, I'm sure, very helpful to us in this regard. So-
Excellent suggestion.
Pardon me?
I think it's an excellent suggestion.
This is your microphone, by the way, you can move it over there.
I think it's an excellent suggestion.
Okay. George?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think one thing we need to get clarified here. You told them that they need to go to Diane to get sworn in at the last meeting, okay? Is this, I remember that, is this a subcommittee or isn't it a subcommittee? Because if it isn't, this is the remarks that we got from Diane. She swore them in as a subcommittee.
If that's the case, then they've been sworn in as a subcommittee, then
I
they
have
are a
not.
subcommittee. But you have not been. So, you have to get sworn in as a board member.
Well, I think George raises a very valid point.
I do
is,
too.
Why do we put together a subcommittee? We put together the subcommittee for the needs assessment because we thought it was going to be a substantial amount of work. It was probably going to involve an outside contractor. We wanted the subcommittee to do the work and bring recommendations to the board. Similarly, with the membership committee, there was quite a bit of work, written work that needed to be done to then be brought to the board for review and voting on. There's a degree to which it feels like the two of you could go get information and bring it back to the board for discussion. I don't see the product out of this being so much a needs assessment or something that goes into the membership book, but rather a discussion that happens and then people who get approached to ask to do things like rope off the parking area. It almost feels to me like this would be anything that a member could advocate for and then come back and report on to the committee.
It was like, we had a discussion last month about getting seniors to town meeting, and somebody gave me a suggestion, and somebody else says something, and then I left, and somebody else outside of the meeting said something to me.
Right.
we
And then you
just
brought that back.
And we collated it together
Right.
and did this.
Yeah, I'm not sure that a subcommittee is
I'm not
necessarily
sure it
needed.
should have been a subcommittee.
well,
We
I
shouldn't have
agree.
used the word in the first place. Maybe.
And I know.
Let's just do the work.
I
Let's
mean,
just
maybe
get
we
it
should
done,
just
yeah, do the
go
work.
take this and talk to Keith about it.
Barry?
Yeah.
Yeah, following up on what George has raised, I have a real problem with two or more people acting in concert and giving the appearance of the subcommittee if they're not gonna be a subcommittee. Because if you're acting like a subcommittee, you should get sworn in.
And if you are a subcommittee, then you have to abide by the rules that apply to the subcommittee, like posting
Can I-
notice of meetings,
Can I just
et cetera.
I'd like to poll the board, just an informal question. Are these concepts with respect to the comfort and safety of our seniors and increasing the number of seniors who participate at town meeting, are these concepts important for us to talk about? You know, yes?
Yes. Barry, and.
We're getting off track.
Right.
We're talking about and following up with what George has raised. And
This-
the substance of what you're finding should be deferred until we deal with this question.
Which is
and
the
get an
so the
answer.
second question is, if the board continues to say, yes, let's focus on this, then it's by what structure? And by the, and there, I defer to the will of the board. Patty had a great idea earlier. I frankly agree with Patty, and I think this is what Pamela was starting to suggest. I don't know why we need the structure of a subcommittee. Just have members working on an issue important to seniors and doing some homework and coming back and talking to you all. If, Madam Chair, you think a subcommittee is the right structure, I just want to do the work. So I'm happy however the board wants to structure that.
I am not aware, but I'd have to do some research, quite frankly, because I'm not aware that members cannot look and gather information without being considered a committee and bring it back. But then the board should make that decision, is this something that, and I think that's where we're at. And I was looking at the write-up here, but, so we need to make that decision. Yes. Bob's been trying to speak.
Okay, my problem is, I do not want this board meeting to become an open discussion of every issue that needs to be dealt with in the detail that we're talking about. Obviously, there are a number of items that need to be dealt with, and some suggestions need to be made in terms of how we can act on it. But I don't think that the board meeting itself is the place to run, whether you want to call it a subcommittee or anything else. This is why it was, I assumed it was an appointed subcommittee that was coming back with some things to bring to the board in terms of, this is what we would suggest you do, and the board would say it. I'm very afraid of the board becoming a general discussion and running for 3 and 4 hours.
Right, and this is my concern also. If you function as a subcommittee, you come back to the board prepared, present your whatever it is, and elicit, their vote and whether they support it and approve it. And then you move on, and you don't get bogged down with discussions like this that we're having right now, I think, in a way. So I think we need to, the structure of a subcommittee helps immensely in keeping things moving along. At least it's been my experience from serving on a subcommittee that it has. Because the membership subcommittee, we're working still on things, we haven't brought anything to the board of late because, and again, you have an agenda, we need to stick to it, and we don't need to get bogged down. So I hear you, Bob, and I understand what you're saying. I hope the rest of you do, too. And George?
Yeah, why don't we just, as a suggestion, why don't we just accept for discussion this topic that the two members brought to the board, which they addressed it to you as the chair. And once we accept it, then we decide where we go from there.
That's exactly where I've been trying to structure, I think, or thinking. And I thought that's what we had done at the last meeting. We had accepted the fact that there was interest in this, and we had two people that were going to be gathering information and bringing it back to us. I didn't realize.
As a subcommittee.
As a subcommittee. So, And Louise would like to say
Well,
something.
again, I think it should be, I feel that all the board members should be aware, so that if they want to be considered a part of any subcommittee, they can volunteer their time also.
Correct. And board members need to volunteer their time to subcommittees.
Yep.
Because that's where the work does get done.
Well, and that, as a board member, is what you should be doing.
Correct. That's right.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the for discussion topic that was previously discussed here, as submitted by Patty and Chris here. It's dated 21st of January. Reference town meeting access for senior.
Do I have a second on that motion? Chris?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion. Further discussion? Hearing none? We have a vote on accepting this information that was brought to us for discussion. That was the motion.
Right?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Opposed? None.
Now we do.
Now, let's move on.
Now that we have accepted this, what is the pleasure of the board now that we have this document?
Correct. And does it move along to a subcommittee? Quite frankly, I think that that structure helps keep things organized. It really does. Because we don't have time to get into lengthy discussions and make decisions. We need people bringing information to us, excuse me, for a vote. Discussion, yes, a little bit about the information, and moving ahead. So I would like to continue. You said you've gone and been sworn in on the subcommittee. What was the name of the subcommittee?
I did not get named sworn into anything.
Okay, you didn't
She
get sworn in.
refused to swear me in because we do not have a name of this subcommittee.
Right, that's why I'm thinking I didn't
So
even
she
know it
didn't
was a
swear you
subcommittee.
in?
Pardon me?
She did not swear you in?
No.
Well, I think Chris's argument on why what this is intended to address is different from the voter participation committee
I agree.
is a very valid one and needs to be made clear to the town clerk. And I would suggest also to Keith.
Well, then we need to name this subcommittee.
Correct.
And then we both need to go and get sworn in.
Okay.
So,
So you need to come up with a name.
we,
That's the name right on the discussion.
we do. Or, yes,
Reference.
town meeting access for seniors,
Works
subcommittee.
for me.
Then I would make it senior because it's specific.
Right, I said
Yeah.
senior. Town meeting access for seniors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Everyone
Now,
in
what are we
agreement with
doing?
that?
Are we suggesting that there be a subcommittee
Yeah.
on
Yes,
this board? Okay.
yes. And the
Bob,
subcommittee,
I think you were just about to volunteer to join it with us. I could tell.
the name of the subcommittee will be Town Meeting Access for Seniors.
Yep.
And, you know, a subcommittee can be very short-lived. It can be a 3-month, 6-month, it doesn't have to be a, 4-year subcommittee. So it's
also
just
be
a
a 1 month.
vehicle
Yeah.
to get, it can be a 2-month subcommittee. And I, say no more on that, but anyway, so we don't have to vote on that, do we? Do we have to vote on that?
To create a
Establish
subcommittee?
A subcommittee?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Okay, now what are you calling a subcommittee?
Town meeting access for seniors.
Okay.
Okay. Now, let me, just for sake of clarity, are both of you continuing, wishing and volunteering and okay with continuing to address this concern? Because I think we all agree it's a concern and an issue that needs to be looked at. are you both willing to continue working on this on a subcommittee?
I do.
Thank
Me
you.
too.
Thank you. Okay. Are we
Now, you will
clarifying?
have to go back to Diane.
Yes.
And be sworn
Okay,
in.
now we have a name.
Yes,
we
you
can do
do.
it.
So, okay, thank you ever so much. I'm sorry we kind of got to that point, but anyway.
So three things then, I guess, in wrapping up the subject for today. One is if I think I've heard correctly, Patty and I are gonna go and get sworn in.
Yep.
We're going to invite through Pamela, Keith Bergman to come and chat with us as a, or are we not doing that? Now that we have a subcommittee, or do we not want that? Or do we still want that?
I think the subcommittee could work with him, can't he?
Well, I was wondering if you wanted to meet with Keith.
Right.
And
Patty-
share with him that,
Yeah.
that distinction that you're making of why this is different.
Okay, so
From the
two
voter
steps then. We'll go
participation.
get sworn in, and Patty and I will get time on Keith's
Ask for him
calendar, and we'll go
to,
sit down with
yes,
him.
get on his calendar as as the subcommittee, and, you know, and then you bring the information back to us, and it would be probably helpful to have that discussion with him.
Because I think
Okay.
Diane raised a question that other people will probably raise. You know,
Right.
isn't this duplication of effort? And I don't think it is.
Oh, I don't
Neither.
think so.
I agree with you. I do. I did not. I understand that myself until you brought that to the table today.
Right.
So I thank you for that.
Do we want to go so far as have it reflected in the minutes that the board feels this effort is not duplicative? This is a separate initiative.
separate
and focus.
Issue.
And so that we can engage with Keith and the town clerk potentially with the ability to state the board feels this is important.
This is why we have the subcommittee, because we do feel it's important, and it is an isolated issue and different from the voter participation committee.
Yes.
Friends?
Yes.
I just
Barbara.
want to comment for the Friends that I agree that this is absolutely separate, because their committee has so many things that they would be involved with. And of course, maybe the seniors in some way are in their program, but this is totally different and something that we've been trying to do for many years. Part of, you know, like saying you want the meeting earlier or on Saturday, and I asked about that and I heard that, oh, we tried that, it didn't work. But I don't understand why you can't try again, because that maybe was years ago when something was totally different, you know? I mean, it doesn't hurt to suggest it again and, or the time. Everything that you said, I think is great. And I think that you should be separate from this other committee, because this way you can home in on this, like you said too, a little faster. I mean, you're gonna be taking care of that specific thing, without worrying about, I can't understand being on the other
Well,
committee for
it's
this. I just
certainly
can't.
supports improving voter participation among these seniors.
Mm.
And that's, you know, so we aren't contradicting or going against anything.
No, no, no.
But we are making it easier because we're working with that segment.
Yeah, no, then.
I wouldn't say, we wouldn't send somebody not to be participatory on their group.
Oh, no.
No.
No, I
mean,
think
it-
that's a good
it-
idea.
It would be a good idea to have somebody on it, but we would still push for our concerns right here.
And you, as a subcommittee, can come back to the board and say to the board, we really are recommending that a person from the Council on Aging
Yeah,
work on, and be, you know, work on the voter participation committee.
right.
So as a subcommittee, bring that back.
So the question is, for the secretary in capturing the minutes on that subject, Bob, what have you been able to get?
Okay, I'm just waiting. We need to have a vote to appoint, to create the subcommittee. And then once we have that, you can appoint people to it. And
I don't think we do need a vote for that. We didn't vote to have a membership subcommittee or a needs assessment, did we? Or did we, maybe as a result of that? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember if we voted or if just the board agreed. Is there significant opposition that we need to take a vote?
Madam Chair, anytime you have a committee, to make it effective, you need to vote.
Okay, we can take a vote. It doesn't do any harm, I don't think. So, all right, we'll entertain a
All
motion.
your i's are dotted and your t's are crossed that way.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Ben?
Sure. Yeah, I'll make a motion that the board, the Council on Aging, vote to create a subcommittee for the purpose of focusing on town meeting access for seniors.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make a point here. This is the Council on Aging, and we're concerned about our elders. It's just as simple as that. With them being able to participate and continue to participate in town government. It is as simple as that.
So noted.
Thank you.
All right, may we have a vote? All those in favor of establishing a subcommittee
Aye.
on town meeting? Any opposed? So moved. All right. Then we move on to the update on the kitchen project.
And the appointees are Patty and Chris.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. And yes, thank you, Pam. Are you caught up, Bob?
Okay, here's what I've got. After all the discussion, it was suggested a subcommittee be created and be called the Subcommittee of Town Meeting Access for Seniors. It was moved, seconded, and passed to create this committee. Chris and Patty will serve on the subcommittee and will be sworn in by the town clerk. The subcommittee will meet with Keith and determine what is different and explain what is different from the town committee on town meeting. It will then recommend to the board endorsements, recommend for board endorsements specific items of concern and correction.
Sounds good.
That captured.
All right, okay. Update on kitchen project.
Number 2.
Number B, 4B.
The latest update on the kitchen project is they have completed phase 1, which is the drawings phase. And the PMBC, when I say they, I mean the PMBC, this is their project, they're putting together the package that will go out for bid, and I've asked them to notify me on the dates on that. This happened at last Wednesday's meeting.
Well, that's some progress.
And the date is going out for bid?
All right.
Don't know yet. I asked them
But
for
it
the
is-
date,
Okay.
that they're preparing the package.
Great. At least it's some progress. How about updates on the needs assessment?
Would somebody like to talk about the meeting?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we had the public meeting on the 31st of January, Saturday. Dr. Muchler from the Gerontology Department. She's Director of Center for Social and Demographic Research and Aging of the Gerontology Institute of the John W. McCormick Graduate School of Policy and Global Studies at UMass. She was the moderator of the conversation, which Pamela had put together. And we had a number of members of the community present, asking questions and engaging and participating, which was great. The general structure of what we're attempting to do, the different kind of milestones leading up to the distribution of that survey was discussed, as was the importance that the community respond to that survey and what we can do as a board and community to kind of encourage response to that survey. That information will be critical. It is really the critical step. A lot of what we're doing between now and then, as far as the key, the interviews happening with key stakeholders and key participants and what have you, are to inform that survey. But the responses are critical, so we spent a lot of time on that. And as always, it's just a great opportunity to lower the curtain and share with the community what we're up to and why, and get some ideas, and I think we accomplished that, so that was,
Thought there was good attendance, and there was
Yeah.
great dialogue.
yep,
Really was. So,
yeah.
for those of you who didn't make it, it was informative, very informative. Any further discussion on that or questions in that regard? Okay, moving right along then, sand bucket update. And if you'll notice on your agenda, you have a thank you from Barbara Sheldon and Henry Crystal. They were very grateful, and I just overheard today, someone else had a bucket of sand delivered, I think, yesterday, maybe it was. So I guess people are still asking, and I've heard a lot of positive things about it, so. Yes, it's been well received, and especially this winter. So, anything else to add to that, Pam?
Speaks for itself, I think.
It does, so. All right, let's move along. Update on the broadcaster appeal, and then that was in your minutes. Pam can update us on that.
Yeah, so it was voted at this meeting to ask the Board of Selectmen if we could do an appeal in the broadcaster for transportation funds. And at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, they passed it, and we do have approval to seek that kind of appeal.
Great. I think that's really nice. And it's great that they're supporting us. The Board of Selectmen supports us. Is
Very, very little in the way of questions. They really seem to understand
great.
how important the transportation program is.
Good. Any questions for Pam on that? All right. I think you're still on, though. Speaker on elder abuse from Minuteman Senior Services.
I finally got a response back from them. I got passed from person to person, and it is going to happen in April on the 23rd. They're giving us a presenter to do a general education program on
21st.
elder abuse.
23rd, I think.
23rd, April 23rd.
Do we know
Pamela, what will
roughly
the-
what time? 1 o'clock?
Will the focus be, on financial abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse?
All aspects.
all
It's an
aspects.
educational program. What is abuse, meaning all of those kinds of things? What do you do if you suspect that someone is being abused, or if you think that you are being abused? Who to contact, et cetera.
Great.
Will they talk about telemarketing abuse?
Yeah, right.
The antidote to that is hang up the phone.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Be quick.
You know, we talked about this at the forum, and it's a good point you raise.
Yep.
There were a couple studies which are interesting. MetLife did a study, MetLife, the big insurance company, and they found that seniors are cheated out of $2.9 billion annually.
That doesn't surprise me.
That's just by them.
And these are the financial, yeah. They didn't, that wasn't, maybe that was in the footnotes. Read that more closely. And another found 1 in 20 seniors reported being victimized and victims of financial misconduct. And the average amount that they're kind of victimized by or what's taken isn't a small amount of money.
No.
It's 6 figures. It's life savings. And the scams, that are being perpetrated, these, either online and, on the telephone, and the different types of scams, I was taken back by the scale. It's happening, but it is. And some of the scams online and that are occurring at the end of a telephone connection are worth bringing into this discussion. If you hear an appeal that sounds like this, red flag should.
It would be a good opportunity to bring up questions about different
Yeah.
things like that. And it's like the scam that was recently going around and they had publicized on TV about the IRS. If somebody calls you and says they're the IRS and
Yeah.
da-da-da-da-da, they don't do that, just hang up. So.
And it's not only the TV and the telephone, it's also the mail.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, we're on the subject, just touch on it quickly, just to continue to raise awareness. And I've reached out to the author of this report, and I've asked for some help. But, a number of scams, like, here's one called the Sweetheart Scam, in which an elderly person is seduced by a fake online lover or interested party into sending thousands of dollars to a criminal. The Grandparent Scam, where a criminal contacts an elderly person, often through social media, and claims a grandchild is in trouble somewhere.
Oh, that one's
That
been
has
around,
happened
that's
here.
That
been
one's been
around.
around.
To one of our own people.
We've had
Yeah.
somebody in town, yes,
Yeah, I mean,
Somebody who'll own
and
up
on
to
and
it.
on.
right, so.
So,
It does happen, and that's great, I'm glad, thank you for putting that
before,
together.
we close on that, so we have a forum on the 23rd, thanks to Pamela, which is great. So now it's about raising awareness and getting people there, and there where we will ask our friends, and we can maybe get the word out over the program.
Yeah, in March, April, yep.
Good.
And Pam always gets a lot of our articles out about special events like this.
It'll go by email, it'll go to the Action Unlimited, it will be mentioned in the Independent.
There ought to be a write-up on whatever happens that day that's put in the broadcaster or in whatever other ways, if we can get it reported there, whatever, to get people, to get it to a greater number of people that knows that are at the seminar. Because the more people who can be made aware, the better.
Well, for the April broadcaster, we can say that it's coming and talk a little bit about it. And then for the May broadcaster, we can do a follow-up that reminds people. You know, one of the difficulties we have with the broadcaster is it is so full, it's really hard for us to put in anything that's lengthy, because there's so many things that are going on, but I ought to be able to squeeze something in May that just kind of wraps it up and brings it to people's attention again. Also have the police department now scheduled to come every month and as part of the Coffee With series. So they'll be coming on Wednesdays at the end of the month, and one of the presentations they want to do is to have Pablo come, one of the detectives who specializes in fraud, to talk.
That's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, we
And where do
can
they
just,
come, when do they come, at lunch?
They're coming for a coffee hour, so it'll be at 10:30. They selected last Wednesday of the month.
and we need to get that word out, which will get out in the broadcaster also, but, so it's just another little way to get the word out there to people. All right, we need to move on. If we're done. Okay, let's go into new business then, and we need to vote to accept the gift from the Vincent Cooper Charitable Foundation in the amount of $10,000 as a donation to the Energy Assistance Program as approved by the Board of Selectmen. So the Board of Selectmen has already approved this.
No, this is, the
sorry.
process for this is, I've received the check from the Vincent Cooper Fund. The first step is for this board to vote to accept that check, and then it goes to the Board of Selectmen with our vote of approval to accept it, and then the Board of Selectmen have to vote to accept that gift. And Bob, the reason this wording is like this is because that's the wording that is in the letter.
Okay,
The
let's
company's the
get the
check.
wording down. It is moved, seconded, and passed to accept the gift from the Vincent Cooper Charitable Foundation in the amount of $10,000 as a donation to the Energy Assistance Program, and,
To be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
okay,
So the process whenever you get a gift is first we accept it, and then the Board of Selectmen have to accept it.
okay, so it is moved, seconded, and passed to accept the gift from the Vincent Cooper Charitable Foundation in the amount of $10,000 as a donation to the Energy Assistance Program,
To be approved.
to be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Do we have a second on that motion? I assume you're
Second.
making the motion? Thank you, George. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
It was very generous of them to come in with this donation. Sherry Gould, who's a member of the committee, actually personally came in and brought the check in. And one of the things I was impressed with is she gave me the check, and she said that she shared this with the other members of the board, that she knows with confidence that every dollar out of that 10,000 will go to help people who need energy assistance, as opposed to other kinds of donations where only a portion of what you give may go to help people. Or, as in the case of the Salvation Army appeal that is made through Light and Water, that does not necessarily all go to Littleton people. There are Littleton people who do receive benefit from that, but not necessarily, it's not targeted that every dollar that comes from Littleton goes back to Littleton. So the Cooper Fund is very happy to know that all $10,000 will go directly to help people in Littleton.
As a matter of fact, she had told me, she said, Lauren, she was on the committee there, that she knows that there are seniors and there are people in this city, in this town rather, need help. And she said, as long as she was on there, she was going to always support. And she said, I will specify where the money is to go. Sometimes she puts in 3 or 4 areas where the money can be used. Because I went over there and picked up the checks in the past from, with the letter, and she stated, you
That
know.
is really, really nice.
So she really been a big
Supporter.
supporter of the senior and the people in general in Littleton.
That's a warm, fuzzy feeling to know that you got people like that out there.
Well, I'd like to say one thing. I wonder how Tina feels about this.
Well, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. She has been, so supportive. The Vincent Cooper Charitable Fund has been very, very good to us for quite a few years.
Oh,
It's
that's
very,
good to
very
hear. Yeah.
appreciated.
From both of you.
Okay, we ready to move on?
Yep.
Next item of new business, day trips.
So I'm sorry that Mary C. isn't here because she's raised this several times as an issue, wanting to know why we don't offer more day trips and what have you. I've done some research. I've talked to some of the other Council on Aging directors. I also talked with Park and Rec, Sharon Martell, who handles the day trips for Park and Rec. No one's exactly sure why, but everyone is experiencing the same fall off in interest in day trips. As in, they offer day trips and they don't fill, or they don't fill sufficiently to run, or in some cases, they completely fail. And we've had several day trips that have been offered over the last year that we have absolutely no one who signs up for them. Sharon Martell, who's working with a slightly younger population in Park and Rec, finds they're only offering 4 day trips this year because all the others have failed, and they're still not sure on a couple of them whether they're going to happen or not. It's very unclear why. Prices don't seem to have changed that much. It just seems that people are no longer as interested. So you'll notice in the broadcaster that the next day trip we offer is in conjunction with Park and Rec, hoping that we can get enough people for it to run for both of us. One of the firms that was offering day trips for us is no longer in business. And again, I need to make clear that we are not a large enough town that we can fill an entire bus for a trip on
Makes
our
sense,
own.
yeah.
We have to have like 50 seniors to fill a bus in order to run like one of the Fox tours on our own. So we've always had to partner with someone. And I wish I had better news for you on that. I will try to offer what I can, but it's not looking really great for that.
George?
Well, I think one of the impacts is the economy. I mean, you know, when gas is getting up there close to $4, ain't nobody, I mean, that's, you know, during the summer, the spring of the year, the cost of heating oil over $4 a gallon. I mean, that's, you know, people had to make a choice here, you know, and that's where I think a lot of things have dropped off recreation for a lot of people. Not only just, you know, the seniors here, but just in general, people just says, hey, you know, I got to pay the utility bill. I mean, some people utility bill jumped up 37%. You know, so it's been the economy. And, you know, like now, I don't know what game they playing now, because now you got the gas shooting back up crazy again now, so I don't know what's happened there. They're down to $50 a barrel, so now it's going back up. But the diesel fuel didn't drop too far, because it's still been right close to $3.
We even had a group that tried to put together, you know, a smaller trip using one of our vans on a weekend, and they couldn't get people to sign up for that.
Tight money.
Go ahead, Louise?
Pam, to the best of your knowledge, have other Council on Agings that you might have been in contact with, are they experiencing the same problem?
That's what you
Yes,
said.
yeah, I had dinner with
That's
4
all I did.
directors a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they all said that their attendance is
Yeah.
terrible.
Okay,
So we're not unique in that regard,
yep, good.
which is a good thing to know, and maybe we need to then concentrate our efforts in other areas. You know, it's telling us something here.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're not sure what it is, but
Yeah.
something. We'll figure it out. All right, ready to move on?
Yep.
Item C, under new business. And we need to vote to request the Board of Selectmen's approval to appeal to area businesses in support of our transportation program.
So at the last meeting, we talked about, you know, could we reach out to the businesses, how we might reach out to the businesses. I think we all agreed that they are not going to be reading the broadcaster, so that's not going to touch upon them. I had a discussion with Keith, and he suggested that we just straight out send a letter
Yeah,
to the
that makes
businesses,
sense, yeah.
asking them, same thing, you know, support the transportation program. Some of the seniors that ride the transportation program are going to area businesses. So again, the procedure is that this board needs to approve that we're going to do that we're going to make an appeal to businesses, and then we have to ask the Board of Selectmen to allow us to do that, just like we did with the broadcaster appeal.
Well,
And this comes back to that, it's not legal for a town entity to solicit without the approval of the Board of Selectmen. So I ask for your vote to support sending a letter to the businesses. It would be targeted about the same time as the broadcaster appeal, asking for donations for transportation.
Do you have the letter already drafted?
I have, yes, I have a draft of it.
Do you have it with you?
I don't have it with me, no.
I just was wondering what it said.
It
Well-
says pretty much the same thing as the appeal to the
Broadcast?
broadcaster, that it mentions the same thing about the statistics, the change in statistics from 2012 to now, number of seniors that are being served, and ask them to support the program.
Thank you.
Keith would like to put it on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen right away.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the request for appealing to the business in support of the transportation program for the
I second.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
Can we just be
Yes.
reminded, what's the deficit? Or another way of asking the question, perhaps, how much are we hoping to collect?
Well, last year, our deficit was about $4,500. This year, we are already running above every number from last year. So I would project that the deficit is going to be closer to $6,000. The request to the Board of Selectmen says that we'd like to solicit $15,000, because what I'd like to do is replenish the money that we took out of the van fund already to cover that deficit, or cover part of that deficit, be prepared to cover a deficit for this year and be ready for next year, with the hope that within 2 years, that we have some kind of revamping of the transportation program. There's been discussion that transportation would perhaps become a separate entity and wouldn't necessarily be all our responsibility, but would rather be more of a town responsibility through the Crosstown Connect entity. And I can send everyone the text of the letter.
No, I don't need that. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Myself, I'm just curious is.
And the vote is on just taking it to the Board of Selectmen too, not the content of the letter.
Well, I have to give
But
them
you
the
would-
content.
right.
That's why I have it already.
no, would you have specific businesses keyed, or would you send it to most of the businesses in the
I think we
town?
should just send it to all of them.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's hard to tell who might be really interested and who might be captured by the idea.
yeah, well, we have big-name businesses, but we also have very small businesses, and every little bit helps.
Madam Chair, through to the director, how many businesses do we have that we're gonna be sending it to? You have an idea on that?
Oh, my God.
The last time I heard, I thought it was like 130, but
Wow,
that's a while back, so I don't know.
that's a big number.
I
Quite a
was
few.
surprised at
It's
the
quite a
number.
few. It's
yeah.
amazing.
That's a big number.
Town clerk keeps those records.
All right, we have a motion, which has been moved and seconded on the table. How are we doing? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, reports. And Mark, in the office, budget, money reports.
Okay, if you look at your two reports on the 11 by 17s, you'll notice we got in the dispatcher's charge this month, so that's been added. Other than that, interesting items would be the monthly riders are at 366 on a very strong holiday month.
Question. Why do we have fiscal year 14 at the top of the report?
Because I didn't change it.
Oh, okay.
You can change it, George.
Yeah, okay, I just
Yeah, I
asked
will.
it
I'll get it.
for the data, it was on the wrong report, that's all I was asking.
And I think everything else is pretty explanatory. Out of 45,000, for drivers, we only have 13,700 left out of 45,600. So, and we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months to go, so obviously we're gonna run into a deficit.
Yep.
Any other questions on that report? Fares collected are very strong, but of course that's matched against it. We have to take that off of the 68,000 in order to come out with the correct number for March to be reimbursed. So, but they've been going up and up in terms of their, we've set the budget at 4,600, and we're doing very well on that.
I got a question on that, Bob. Based on the balance that we have on the salary for the drivers, we got a little over 13.5 left. And I'm looking at the way this has been jumping pretty close here since September. Well, October, it's gone into the 4,000 range. Typically, we'll call it midway there, 4,600 per month there. And then we got this 13.7 this showing January. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more months. We're going to have that larger deficit on this.
That's what they were talking about when we went to that appeal. We were talking about a short-term deficit of very significant amount of money.
Yeah, probably
Why-
$3,000 or $4,000.
What? How much?
Probably $3,000 or $4,000.
Only 3 or 4,000? What has caused this to jump? I look at September, it was low there, so I'm just assuming that there was some workers not there, but on the average, we was almost like at July. I guess that's when it was high on participation there, that we had the drivers out there. But just take on a mean here, call it $4,600. What has caused the increase to jump in that we have went to this figure? I've never seen this budget this low with a balance, and we having almost a half a year left.
So if you look at the back of the director's report, you can see the figures for ridership. Number of riders individually, and then the number of rides that we perform. If you go to the very top line, fiscal year 2013,
Yeah.
you can see, taking 200, 250, maybe 300 people, 300 rides. The following year, fiscal year 2014, we're consistently above 300, and often in the 400s, and then if you start looking at fiscal year 2015, you can see that the numbers are pushing up towards 500 rides.
Are you doing more hours? I mean,
We have to, yeah.
So what's the average for the hours that's being run right now?
Often the guys are doing 8-hour days or sometimes 9-hour days. Back in the old days, when I first started working the program, sometimes there'd be a 6-hour day, and sometimes we even have a day where we only sent out one van. I haven't had a day with one van. I can't remember a day that I've had with one van in the last 3 months.
So it's the average of 8 hours a day, which is probably an increase over the previous by 2 hours, and increases in wages is what's eating it up.
Well, it's
They're
two
also
vans, so
being paid
it's,
not on a increasing scale, which is something that we never had to deal with, because everybody was $15 and that was it.
no, they're topped out. They're all topped
Yeah,
out at
some
the
of them are
top of their,
topped out.
at 15, yeah.
But if George is doing overtime, that's included. If we actually spent $4,500, which is a little less than the last 2 months, for the next 5 months, it would be $8,718 in deficit.
Wow. That's a big number.
The word is out, and people are using the system. That's really, and that's a good
So
thing.
that's good, yeah, that's a good thing.
That is a
there.
good thing. But, because the numbers reflect that, obviously.
But you have to be careful of that too, because Park and Rex was saying the same thing. We got people that are doing it, we're just not breaking even.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna accept that, so. Of course, the long-term solution is the transportation will eventually be a completely different area from just the seniors.
Right.
And what we're looking for is to keep providing the level of service short-term until they can get that all resolved.
What's our contingency? Should we fail to raise the money in the appeal?
Then we would dip into the van fund. We have a van fund that was set up to pay for maintenance costs, to pay for the purchase of the new van, for example, came out of that fund.
If we were to raise an amount between 0 and the goal, which is likely, do we use it first for the deficit, or do we use it to replenish the funds we've taken from the van fund already? for the
We would use it
purpose?
for the deficit first.
Okay.
Replenishing the van fund is the icing on the cake. And the reason the van fund is important to be replenished is because that's the fund that we dip into when we have repairs. That's the fund we dip into when we need to replace the tires,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Maintenance.
Is there,
What do we, oh, go ahead.
go ahead, George.
I was gonna ask, how much money do we have in the van fund?
Have you got that?
I was looking for that sheet, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see the sheet either, but I've got the sheet here.
$22,000, something like that.
Here's the mark. Van fund has $20,678.66 right now.
I have a question. You have down here, fares to be collected.
Right.
Are you able to collect the fares?
No, they're right on that
Oh,
sheet.
so it's fares to be collected. Are there people that don't pay?
No. These are just, you subtract the fares to be collected. In other words, this line, which is fares collected,
Yeah.
you have to take it away from to make the 68,000, you have to take away what you get in fares.
Oh,
And so up to 46, we have $4,600 set to do that, as a minus 4,600.
oh.
And
In the bottom.
It's 5 months
at this
left.
point, we still have to collect $1,249.30 in order to break even, to
Yep.
make the 68,000.
In the
We
next
will
budget.
probably, over the 5 months, collect more than that,
Oh, okay,
but it still has to be taken off.
okay.
Yes, George?
To you, to the director, in January, we got billed in on the dispatcher for 10 grand?
Yeah, that's the annual. It came in January for the whole year, from July to June.
So we're good on that then until June.
Until the end of June, right?
So this fiscal year, that will be the total dispatcher's bill, which is more than the 7,500 it was last year.
It
is
creeps
the
up,
9
doesn't it?
So,
But on the upside, we do now have full-time dispatch, and they were very, very helpful when we were in the storms. I have to tell you, transportation was insane with all the cancellations and what have you, and they did a great job of calling people. And it was weekend for a couple of the storms, and they were very, very helpful.
The office report is pretty much standard.
Bob, hold on, Bob, excuse me for 1 second. Before we move off of this question about the van fund today, is there a budget that shows us the health of that fund in particular relative to the vehicles we have? And it's probably a difficult budget to put together, so I'm not trying to create work for you. Maybe you already have it. But at what point is there not enough money to support the known or reasonable to us to predict, maintenance costs of the vehicles we have? We know tires, brakes, oil, other repairs occur and are needed. Do we have enough? Does that fund run out of money at some point based on the number of vehicles we have and the age and condition of them?
It's used to maintain one vehicle, which is the new van that we purchased. At the rate that we're using it right now, it'll last about 5 years, but the hope is that through both of the appeals that are being made, we'll be able to replenish some of that fund.
Okay.
That fund originally was a fund for a new van, and it has been now being used for maintenance. It was originally a different, it had a different.
But we did buy the new van with it.
Yeah, we did do some maintenance, but.
No, we bought
No,
the van.
the new
We
one,
bought
yeah.
the new
Yeah.
van out of that.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, but what we did, what Bob is referring to is the $30,000 that we had in to replace the old COA van. And when we got the new van, which Bob and I wrote up, the state, we only put a small amount of money with that, and the state gave us, put the rest of the money with, I forget what it was that we wrote up on that. But anyway, so what happened was that I asked Bunny, could we take the $30,000 that we had in there and convert that to the diner? And she let us do that, so that's where that $30,000 on the diner came from. It came from, actually, we had levied it for a van replacement.
So you had $60,000 in the van account and you took 30 out for the kitchen?
No, when we made the long-term list of items that needed to be replaced or whatever it was when the town did the budget, when they forecasted, that we put $30,000 in to replace a van. That money that came in was a donation that came in with the van, and when we wrote the grant, that's what I'm trying to think. The grant, when Bob and I wrote the grant and sent it in, we had to pay, what was it, 20% of it, or something like that. It was a very small amount of money, $8,000 or $9,000 that we ended up having to pay, that the town had to pay for that grant on the new van. So when we got the new van,
Okay, let's be clear. When you say new van, do you mean the big white bus?
I mean the Mark van, the big bus, 15
white bus.
passenger.
the one that we ended up getting from the state instead of from.
Yeah, that we wrote a grant for that, and the town had to contribute a small amount of money. It was something like about maybe $9,000.
Well, we also bought the other new van out of that fund. The fund does not have a budget. What it had, what it was an accumulation of gifts to buy it, to eventually buy a new van and so forth. And then what we have used it for now is we're holding it to use for maintenance.
And of course, at some point,
And I don't know whether there's enough in there until transportation is taken over.
yeah, some repairs cost more than others, we know the vehicle is critical, so we have to have a contingency fund like this.
What we have is
And at
two-
some point,
two
we're gonna need
brand new
another van. Or,
We have two
you know, the
brand new
vans we
vans.
have will reach the number of miles at which they're no longer safe to operate and so forth.
But at this point, we have two new vans, where before we were nursing a very old van with 199,000 on it, and that was
Jeez.
a
Yeah.
difficulty.
Well, it sounds like, I appreciate the background, because it's the first time I'm just reviewing some of those numbers. It sounds like Pamela has an appropriate focus on the importance of this fund. It has a lot of need,
Oh, yeah.
and the pressure on this fund is only gonna increase. The vehicles are only gonna get older, maintenance only gets more expensive, and, you know, we have a large and growing senior population, so the ridership doesn't appear to be going down anytime soon, if
We hope-
ever.
I don't think it
No,
is.
and we hope the transportation program gets to its final resting place. The plan is to have it, not be under,
Yep.
totally, it'll be a town transportation program. So, and that's in the works, so we don't know, it could take 4 or 5 years more.
And yes, it could come to the point where we have too many riders and too many costs, and that we're going to have to cut back on what we're doing. If that doesn't get resolved in a.
However, I just recently was behind one of those vans from the transit program at the light at Emerson Hospital there, and it was the shuttle being run by that program. So I was excited to see it. It was a big, white, bus type van. So
Would-
I was thrilled when I saw the name on it.
Well, what Pam was referring to when she told you about that fund, there was a person that donated
Right.
a large sum of money for a new van, 50 Gs, actually about 55 Gs. And what happened was that when we did the grant on that van, Tina and I went back to the donor and asked, how do we do it? Because the town wanted to know. We already got the van, how to do it. So we wrote up a memorandum which was agreed to, that this money could be used for the COA vans in supporting maintenance, tires, or whatever. That's how it's used. So that's what she was referring to.
Thank you.
I think we need to move on.
I think it's important that if a member got
agree.
a question, you need to explain so they know what's going on.
Well, that's exactly right, and you have the knowledge, and that is great. 'Cause that's why it's important that I thought you were done.
That's right.
so.
There's a lot of knowledge and experience here on these matters.
Oh,
these you
tremendous
guys have,
amount.
so
That's right.
thank you, George.
Director's monthly report.
Wow, moving right along here. Well, some of the things we've already talked about.
Excuse me, we haven't done the office report.
I apologize.
The office report is
Trying to
pretty
move us along
standard. I
too
don't think
quickly.
there's necessarily any questions on it. But I just want to make sure that everybody had a chance to take a peek at it. Then we can go on to the director's report.
So, we've already talked about the fundraising, the Board of Selectmen voted positively the kitchen project, Elder and Human Services, the remainder are our numbers. Van rides were down in January, there were only 366 rides, but note, there were 185 cancellations, and that was due to bad weather.
February's probably gonna have a few.
Yeah, in February, it's gonna look very much the same way. We had a lot of cancellations.
Were there any days that the van did not run?
Yes, there were many days that the van did not run. And just to forestall questions, the town policy is that if someone is scheduled to work on a day in which it snows, they are paid for that day's work. So it would be great if on the days that it snows, we save money for the vans, but we don't. We still have to pay the drivers.
Only the,
It's because the town closes the town, right?
Right.
only the full-time, right?
No, anyone who's scheduled gets paid for
really?
that day.
I think that's right.
It's only fair, if someone was scheduled to work and they were prepared to work.
Yep.
I think you're on, Tina. I think you're the outreach coordinator's monthly report.
Well, it was, as you can imagine, it was a very busy month in Littleton between trying to get snow shovelers, and the big one was Ruth rakers, people to shovel off roofs and that sort of thing. And although it's not a service we provide, many of the residents in town, Louise, you included, called to offer the excellent references from your own people who you had hired, who did excellent work. And we were able to come up with taking care of all the ones, emergency ones, people with ceilings that were already leaking and that sort of thing. And on 2 of the days that the governor had closed, I worked from home and did a lot of telephone reassurance calls those days, and I don't have them reflected on my numbers. They're in the general information category. But many people did appreciate getting a call during that kind of weather. They're used to it, being from New England, but this winter's been extra long for people. And the bit of good news Pamela and I got today was that there's been a small increase in fuel assistance funding, switching over to the fuel assistance program. And it's up to $70 in an oil or kerosene utility, up to $45 extra, which isn't significant, but it's something that it's being distributed now, and all the vendors are getting calls on all the vendors are receiving calls that their clients are eligible for extra money. So, we had a few almost out of oils around, around the storms. We were fortunate that people at least were able to be shoveled out enough to, accept the deliveries that we were able to get for them. So,
I think we've had close to 100 people that we've assisted with fuel, kerosene, or their electric bills, right?
Yes, yeah, and that's it. Are you talking about like the numbers for, because we're gathering some numbers from last year.
Right.
And then the numbers for this year. Yes, it's definitely close to that.
I'd like to make something that I just observed the other day, and I think it was because I heard it so much on TV. And that is, when I went down my street, I only noticed one fire hydrant that was,
That was shoveled
that
out.
was shoveled out.
I counted them coming over here today. The 2 in front of the Littleton Green are completely under.
Yeah,
All you
and,
can see is the pole.
yeah, and, and that concerns me, I don't even know how many fire hydrants are on Whitcomb Avenue, let alone what the other
I think
street.
I've seen, the fire department is out, and they are
they?
shoveling
I shovel
out.
one up
They
around my
are
house
shoveling out
soon as the
hydrants,
storm
I've
ends.
seen them out doing it, and
My
I was
house is
talking
gonna
to
burn.
them. When they were on Grist Mill Road, actually, I was
Yeah.
out, and I was saying, truck came down, and I said, what are you doing?
No, I planned
Shoveling out
today.
hydrants.
Yeah, I said when I come to the clinic, I'll call the fire department and ask them about it.
they're
but
out.
It's too late.
They're out doing it.
Yeah, but no, Whitcomb Avenue, there's only one fire hydrant there, and I don't know how many feet you're supposed to have fire hydrants.
That's why so many towns, and it's, I saw a sign in Acton welcoming, please help us. And I know on my street, a couple of people have done it too, so.
Yeah.
I do mine every time.
You have to
It's-
pitch in.
Yeah, well, I never
My house
thought
is gonna burn.
Yeah.
to look and see where the fire hydrant is,
Well,
George?
during the first
I'm
storm,
sorry.
the 34 inches, there was an emergency meeting held with the police and the fire. I was invited there. School superintendent was there. And the fire chief was saying that for every call, they send a plow truck, and they send not one but 2 crews to do shoveling, so they can get into homes and get people out regardless of how bad it is. Sorry, George, I stepped on you there.
That's all right. Have the COA been receiving calls from, maybe say seniors, with regards to getting somebody to remove snow off their roof or something like that? Have you been getting any calls like that?
Yes, we did, yes.
So when
And-
you get these calls in, I want to understand the procedure. When you get these calls in, what do you do?
Well, at first, we had to get back to them because we didn't have any resources. Then through other residents in town, they recommended people that they had used that they would give a good reference to, because we're not allowed to really give references or recommendations on people. And of course, the homeowner was made aware that they had to pay for this themselves, and we suggested that they ask all appropriate questions. Are you insured? Could you give a free estimate? And that sort of thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they're told to check and see if they have a license, because what happened is that if you get somebody that's uninsured and they go out there and get hurt, next thing they want to do is sue
That's interesting.
the homeowner because they failed. So we need to make sure that if there's one thing that cannot be overstressed, and that is to make sure that they get the license number, because they should have it right on them when they go there to do this contract work.
Licensed for shoveling roofs on?
Contractor license.
Yeah, most of them have a
Contractors.
contract license. I know we
Which
have
covers
a
it?
handyman, he doesn't shovel roofs or anything, but when he gives his business card, he's got his number right on it, his license number, right on the business
But it's
card.
contractors that generally would do this.
So,
Right,
so, question for George, so if they have a license, that means they have insurance?
Yes, if they have to have insurance. They have to put up insurance to get the license, yeah.
Okay. Because I know I
License
often,
issued
I
by the
ask for the,
state.
if I'm doing something where I'm concerned like that, and I'm probably the, customer they hate to have, but I ask for a certificate of insurance, just to see it. But in this emergency situation, none of these roofing guys are gonna have the time to give a certificate of insurance to every customer that asks. So it's good, I didn't realize there was a shorthand way if you see the license.
Yeah, if you got the license, they have the
Yeah.
state that issues them a license, and they have that license, and you can call that number into the state, and they can tell you.
It's nice to think about the kid next door, but don't ever do it on your roof.
Really?
Yeah.
It's bad enough if he slips on your ice on your walk, but if he comes off your roof, you could lose your shirt.
And what
I never thought of.
I just want to make sure that we was in the clear, that the town is not like, caught up in this. That's what I was concerned about.
That's a good point. Thank you. Okay. Are you done,
I
Tina?
think I'm done.
Okay.
I'm sorry, one quick follow-up question, just on the fuel oil, so you said about 100?
I'd say about 100 this
100,
season.
okay. That's up from 87 last year, if I remember?
And it's a variety of sources.
Okay.
It would be mostly the SMOC Fuel Assistance Program. And we always only hover around 4 or 5 on the Good Neighbor Energy Fund, Salvation Army.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's the Vincent Cooper funds that are used for fuel.
Okay. Is that what you were?
What about Joe's program?
We don't count those numbers at all. The clients are on their own for that, so I don't usually get the feedback or record that program. But the Salvation Army also has a different program that once in a while we can tap. It's a veterans program, and then sometimes just another fund that they'll give some fuel assistance to someone with a serious need, a serious financial need.
And St. Vincent de Paul is not for fuel assistance.
Well, St. Vincent de Paul may do that, but again, I don't get that number. They're self-referred to St. Vincent de Paul, so I don't count
Okay.
that number as mine at all, or as an outreach number.
Is the 100 in line with what you were expecting? Is it more, is it less?
Well, I think we always expect a little more each year, so
Okay.
I think it's, and it's, we're not finished yet. I probably have about 5 or 6 pending fuel assistance appointments. Appointments that people had to cancel because of the weather, that sort of
When
thing.
people come before the season and get their digs in, some of them wait until they realize that they don't have any money and they don't have any fuel, and then they want it immediately.
Right, well, that's what happens, because then there's, for fuel assistance SMOC, there's usually like a 30-day wait before
Right.
you're processed, although it's a little bit quicker this time.
Thank you.
Oh,
I
you're
have a
welcome.
question for Tina. On the Cooper Fund, beside what we got here now, can you tell approximately how much money is in that Cooper Fund, if there is any in there?
I know, but Pamela, you get the accounting on it on a regular basis.
I don't remember off the top
Yeah.
of my head.
Well, we can get that for you for the next meeting, we
Oh,
can
you
have
you don't need
that.
to go to that point. I just thought maybe you may have known how much was in there. because
Isn't that on the fund list?
Because I know
I
that.
gave all that information back to you.
Attorney Gould told me before, she said when she sent this money in for like this, and she said if you had really great needs and you ran out of money, she said always come back and let her know, and that she will try and see what she can do. Maybe she may be able to get some extra money, so I didn't know if you knew that or not.
That's it, yeah.
President's
she's-
Emergency
She's been very
Assistant,
good to let us
It's
know that.
$7,900 is still there.
Right, and then we have the new 10,000
Oh,
being,
that's pretty good.
so we're doing very well
Yeah.
in that program.
And I will send that fund report to everybody by email. And I apologize for it not being in the packet.
That's all right.
It's been a kind of a crazy week.
Yeah, we probably don't do it regularly, that's why, yeah.
Are we,
I'm
I,
finished there.
people
Unless
have any other
anybody has
questions
any
for Tina?
questions.
No? Okay. We need to table D and E, the diner bingo monthly report. Barbara's not here, and Mary's not here for the senior communications. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion.
Well, thank you, George.
I second it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Louise. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
Pam, can I see you for a minute?
Sure.
All right.